Not long ago, I made a video about a Phillies-Dodgers game from 1990 in which I called it the unlikeliest comeback in MLB history. I called it that because, according to win expectancy, this game holds the record for the lowest odds a team had to win to eventually win said game. In that video, I referenced a very famous Mariners-Indians game from 2001, in which the Cleveland Indians tied a Major League record by coming back from down 12 runs to win. That entire game, as well as a video covering it, are already on YouTube, so I won't dwell into the events that unfolded. The one thing I do want to mention though, is that game ranks 5th for the most improbable comeback in MLB history, as the Indians were only given a 0.03% chance to win at one point during the game. Well, here's the thing. According to Baseball Reference, there's been approximately 240,000 games throughout MLB history, and only 4 of them feature the winning team having a more improbable comeback than the Indians did. 4 out of 240,000 represent 0.00016% of all games, and wouldn't you believe it, one of those 4 games occurred just a week prior to the Indians-Mariners game. If I had a nickel for every historic comeback that took place in midsummer of 2001, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. This is what I like to call the greatest 9th inning comeback in MLB history. July 28, 2001. The visiting Houston Astros are on the road to face the Pittsburgh Pirates. For all intents and purposes, this game was meaningless for the Pirates. Entering this game, they had a 39-62 record, the second worst in the National League, and were 19 games out of a playoff spot. They would end the season with a 62-100 record, tied for the worst throughout all of Major League Baseball. On the other hand, this game was important for the Houston Astros. The club had a solid 56-46 record, 4 games back of the Chicago Cubs for the division, and 2.5 games back of the Diamondbacks for the wild card. With only a third of the season left to play, Houston needed every win they could get to climb uphill and overtake multiple teams for a playoff spot. Facing the Pittsburgh Pirates, this should be a walk in the park, right? Well, yeah it was. With no score in the top of the second, Astros third baseman Vinny Casilla led off the inning with a home run off Pirates starting pitcher Bronson Arroyo, and Houston took a 1-0 lead. Pittsburgh would tie the game in the bottom half thanks to an RBI single by Kevin Young, and the score was 1-1. The game remained that score heading into the top of the 5th. Singles by Craig Biggio and Lance Berkman put 2 on base for Vinny Casilla.
Square. Castilla drive deep to left. Going back is Giles. This one leaves the yard.
A 3-run home run, 4 RBIs on the day, and Houston propelled to a 4-1 lead on one swing of the bat. Arroyo was able to keep in check the rest of the Astros hitters following the home run, and his final line was 7 innings pitched, 7 hits, 4 strikeouts, and 4 runs allowed. On the flip side, Astros starting pitcher Roy Oswalt fared much better. Through the first 6 innings, he allowed just 1 run while striking out 6 batters and allowing 5 hits. In the 7th, 2 straight hits were followed by a sacrifice fly, and Pittsburgh cut the lead to 4-2. In the top of the 8th, facing Omar Olivares out of the bullpen, Vinny Casilla connected for his 3rd home run of the game. Casilla hit 320 home runs across nearly 1,900 games during his career, and this was just one of 2 3-homer games he ever had. The Astros wouldn't be done there though. After a walk and a single, Orlando Merced drove in Darryl Ward on an RBI groundout to go ahead 6-2. If you thought that would be the end of the Astros' run scoring for the day, you would be mistaken, as they blew the game wide open in the 9th. Houston led off with 3 straight hits, capped by an RBI scoring double from the bat of Julio Lugo to make it 7-2. Following Lugo, Lance Berkman drove in Craig Biggio with a groundout, and the Astros would take a commanding 8-2 lead heading into the bottom of the 9th. On the mound for the Astros in the 9th was relief pitcher Michael Jackson, someone who I will try to feature in as many videos as possible. He pitched a 1-2-3 inning in the 8th and was only 3 outs away from giving the Astros the win. The first batter up, Aramis Ramirez, nearly hit one out of the park, but Lance Berkman made a terrific leaping catch at the wall to rob Ramirez of a home run for the first out. The next batter, John Vanderwall, flew out to center field for the second out. The last hope for Pittsburgh was first baseman Kevin Young, who had the only 2 Pirates runs on the day. Young was batting .213 entering the day, which included a .162 average in the month of July. In spite of the struggles, Young swung at the first pitch and doubled down the left field line to keep the game alive. The following batter was second baseman Pat Mears. Hitting an OPS under 600 entering the day, he connected for a 2-run home run. It was not only just the 4th home run of the season for him, this would be the last homer of his career. Mears played 9 seasons in Major League Baseball from 1993 to 2001, with this being the 58th and final home run he'd ever hit. An improbable home run to cut the Astros lead to 8-4. On the very next pitch following the home run, pinch hitter Adam Heisdu singles to keep the game alive. In his career, Heisdu only has 82 hits in under 400 career at-bats for a lifetime average of .229. Someone who only played in 221 games across 7 seasons? You just never know who will be a part of baseball history. Speaking of which, the next man at bat, rookie center fielder Tyke Redman, who had a .286 on-base percentage at the time, walks on 4 pitches to keep the game going. I think I ought to mention here that Michael Jackson was no slouch of a pitcher. Entering the day, he had a 3.40 ERA across 42 1/3 innings on the season, which includes a sparkling 1.04 ERA in the month of July. He retired the first 5 batters he faced, but 4 straight have reached base with 2 outs. With 2 on now, rookie shortstop Jack Wilson came to the plate. Just like everyone before him, Wilson was struggling, batting .245 entering the day. Also to note, including his first 4 at-bats of this very game, Wilson was 6 for his last 45 for an average of .133. Naturally, he would single here to drive in Adam Heisdu to make it an 8-5 game, with the tying run coming to the plate. By now, Astros manager Larry Dierker had seen enough. He took out Michael Jackson and brought in closer Billy Wagner. I'm sure most watching are well aware Billy Wagner is one of the greatest relief pitchers of all time, and 2001 was in the middle of his prime. Through this point of the season, Wagner had thrown 40 innings, recording an ERA of 2.93. Catcher Jason Kendall comes to the plate now, and on a 1-1 pitch, Wagner hits him to load the bases. Not only was this the first batter Billy Wagner hit all season, it was, at the time, just the 9th one overall in his career. For context, including this plate appearance against Kendall, Wagner had faced exactly 1,314 batters in his career, and again, this being just the 9th one he's ever hit. That's 0.68% of all batters. Why did I mention that specifically? To show just how improbable it is for everything to have occurred so far this inning. 5 consecutive hitters reached base, and of course, all 5 were poor hitters who were in the middle of slumps, with a good reliever in Michael Jackson on the mound. Billy Wagner then comes into the game and immediately does something that occurs to less than the percent of the batters he faces. The bad news for him and the Astros is now the tying runs are on base for Brian Giles, who had an OPS over 1,000 entering the game. The good news is, the score was still 8-5, and in their only meeting up until this point, Giles struck out against Wagner. Also to consider, it would take a grand slam for the Astros to lose this game here. Wagner had faced 42 batters in his career with the bases loaded entering this at-bat, and allowed only 6 hits for a 171 average. He did allow 1 grand slam in his career up until this point, but that has a giant asterisk next to it, as it was an inside the park grand slam on what really should have been a single. The Pittsburgh Pirates, a team playing for practically nothing, who were down 8-2 with 2 outs and nobody on base in the bottom of the 9th, were on the verge of the greatest 9th inning comeback in MLB history against one of the game's all-time greats. For the Astros, a team needing every win they could get to stay competitive in the playoff hunt had to shut the door right here to avoid an epic implosion. One last thing I want to mention, Billy Wagner threw over 900 innings in his 16-year big league career and faced over 3,600 batters. He allowed just 1 out-of-the-park grand slam.
And a 1-ball pitch. Giles swings, drive to right
right field. Buccos win by way of a grand slam.
It's only fitting this game would end that way. For those wondering, despite the outcome of this game, the aftermath would not have any effect on the standings. The Pirates still wound up with the worst record in baseball, and the Astros would rally the rest of the season to win the division. In a late July game between the Pittsburgh Pirates and Houston Astros during the 2001 season, the Pirates completed one of the most improbable events in the history of baseball. 7 straight runs scored after there were 2 outs and nobody on base in the bottom of the 9th, capped by a walk-off grand slam. Featuring a group of several bench players in the midst of a team-wide offensive struggle, they completed a comeback so grand, we may never see anything of that magnitude ever again. It is the greatest 9th inning comeback in MLB history.